Welcome, boys. This is a collaboration video with Panzer Platform and the rest of the boys. Links to their videos will be down below in the description box. I would like to thank Panzer Platform for allowing me to participate in this collaboration. And we are going to all be testing a Crosstour car recorder CR250. So be sure to check out the other videos when you're done with this one, as we all have something different to contribute, I'm sure. So in my video, I am going to show you kind of a comparison of this Crosstour camera alongside of the one that's already mounted inside the Crown Vic, which is going to be a camera similar to this one, where it's got a suction cup mount on a little ball socket that affixes to the windshield, and then has a 64 gigabyte memory card in it. We're going to be running this Crosstour and this camera both with the same settings. So same type memory card, 64 gigs, 1080p, and that's how we're going to roll. So what I'm actually going to do is, instead of having this camera in the car one day and then putting this camera in the car the other day and comparing footage, I actually have the splitter I bought. And so the Crown Vic already has a wire coming out of the headliner. I hardwired it into a toggle switch into the car. I flip it, the cameras come on. So this is going to go in there and split. So this is going to go to the camera that's already in there, and then this one's going to go to our Crosstour. The current camera is mounted just to the right of the rear view mirror, suction cup to the windshield. This Crosstour is going to go just to the left of that same rearview mirror. So with the splitter attached, we're going to run them both at the same time, so you'll be able to compare apples to apples, the two cameras and what they see on the same drive at the same time. The only difference, of course, is that this camera, it's got like a double-sided tape thing that sticks to the windshield, and then this piece right here locks into here, and then depending on the angle you want your camera to look, you just kind of do one of those numbers, which for my testing purposes will be inconvenient. But if this was the only camera, if I wasn't doing this test and I was going to put this in the car, this would actually be perfect. And I'll show you what I plan on using it for. Now, if you look at the way this current setup is in the BMW, you're going to notice this is the suction cup mount, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because no matter how far down it goes and protrudes into the interior, that doesn't really matter, because there's nothing in the way that's going to interfere with, so long as it's mounted to the right of the rearview mirror. In this case, it is. Now you can see there's a problem with where that would mount in the back of the BMW, because this sunshade goes up and down and can interfere with the camera should it be in the way, or rather the camera would interfere with the movement of the sunshade, I fear. But that Crosstour, since it mounts flush with a 3M tape, I think that's the camera we're going to mount back here. So that's the game plan. If I drive this car again before the end of the test, I'll include some of that rear footage. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and do the side-by-side with the Crown Vic. That's going to show up next. Okay, boys, and for test one here, we're going to be running these cameras side-by-side. So this is the Crosstour. Then over here, on this side, we have our normal one with our splitter. It's powering them both with our switch, which is also powering the rear, which we don't really care that much about. We're just going to be able to roll side-by-side beam footage here and then see the comparison. So we'll do a daytime and nighttime. Alright, boys, this is a both video and audio test of our Crosstour, and comparing it with the dash cam already installed in the P71. I have the blower motor on, so you may hear that. Alright, boys, this is a both video and audio test of our Crosstour, and comparing it with the dash cam already installed in the P71. I have the blower motor on, so you may hear that. Well, hopefully you boys can kind of see out of the windshield, but it's icy out. Windshield was covered in ice. So, the bean footage is probably shit. We'll have to use a comparison on a different night when the windshield isn't covered in ice. Most likely. Well, hopefully you boys can kind of see out of the windshield, but it's icy out. Windshield was covered in ice. So, the bean footage is probably shit. We'll have to use a comparison on a different night when the windshield isn't covered in ice. Alright, so that's enough side-by-side comparison, I think. Should be pretty obvious. The Crosstour does offer a much brighter picture. The sound is also pretty good. You don't hear that vibrating noise whenever I hit a bunch of bumps, as you do with the Pathinglek camera. So, you may or may not prefer the brightness, or may or may not prefer the clear audio, but that's what the Crosstour offers at the moment. So let's head on over to my work car. Alright boys, and this is a setup in the beast I'll be driving all day. So as we can see, there's our camera. Don't mind this big Fleetlytics dash cam. We don't watch that. We don't have access to that. That's what we're worried about. We're going to drive this thing the whole shift and see if it works like it's supposed to. If it can stay powered the whole shift, if it shuts off and on like it's supposed to with the ignition, and if it will record over itself once we get enough bean footage. So let's get her done. Okay, boys, and just to offer some B-roll here while I explain what's been going on. So I actually had this camera mounted in the car at work, which I drove. I have over 90 hours of bean footage just driving around, recording it. That's, shutting the car on and off, letting it record over itself, loop recording. And I have yet to have a single malfunction where it did not record something or a file corrupted. So for that, it did pretty good, but it is not without fault. So we will go over that here momentarily, but I thought I'd just show you this B-roll while I explained a few things. So let's get to the bad. Okay, boys, and after driving around with the Crosstour in my work car for 12-hour shifts each day, I went back to review because I wanted to see what kind of file these videos are in, and here's one problem I have with this, and I'll show you and then we'll compare it to the Crown Vic normal one. So here's one file, just as a 1, so it's like, okay. And then here are all the videos. Now, you know there's a gap between 21, 71, 262, 277, and then from 280 on it goes normally all the way until we get to the most recent videos. So on and so forth in this manner. Now here's the problem. When you have a big memory card and all the video titles say vid and then are numerically ordered, how do you know which ones you pressed lock to save? Well, I can tell you on this, we pressed lock to save 21, 71, 262, and 277. And I know that because there's a gap between here. This camera is set to just loop record over itself. So that's a problem, because unless you just let this keep running and running and running and then find gaps, you won't know what you saved and why at a later date. Unless you can remember what time you did it and for what reason, or if you remembered, something like that. It's like, well, I was roughly around this time, then you'd have to watch all these different clips to see which one you saved and why. So that's one problem. I'm going to show you why that's a problem compared to what the Crown Vic currently has in it. Okay, and so I watched the videos that I knew I had saved because of the gaps in sequence, and then labeled them why I saved them. And so now what we have is me playing the footage, and then you can see this guy's going to run the stop sign. And the point of this is, if I wouldn't have been recording so much, then I wouldn't have known which video I had even saved. But I recorded for, at this time of recording, 2 straight 12-hour shifts and an 8-hour shift before it, to the point where I'm able to get lots of recording over itself to see the footage. So inconvenience, I'm going to show you what it currently looks like in the Crown Vic and why that is better. Now this is what the file looks like in the currently existing camera memory card. It's in the Crown Vic DCIMA, and then you're going to notice anything you save, you click the little lock button, I call it, picture of a key, it says lock. So now you automatically know these 2 videos are important in case we hadn't yet gotten around to running through all the footage. So we only have 50 videos on this memory card, and we can go a lot more. So the Crosstour's got about 7 hours of footage, the way I have it set up, running 1080p with a 64 gig, recording in loops of 3 minutes. So that is, you will have 420 minutes, which is 7 hours. That gives you 140 different videos at 3-minute file sizes. In the current configuration I have, 1080p, 64 gigabyte memory card, records at, I believe, 30 frames per second. So, alright, now you can see why some of the not-so-good things versus the good things. As I mentioned before, the lock feature, actually saying lock on the file means I don't have to hunt. So I'm going to give you my final thoughts on it as we go ahead and disassemble the inside of the Crosstour, because I want to see what kind of lithium polymer battery it takes. So I'll give you my final thoughts while we're doing that, kill a couple birds with one stone so this video doesn't drone on too long. Alright, boys, and now we'll give you my final thoughts while we're seeing what makes this thing tick. So, what do I think of the Crosstour? For its $20, normally $50. Well, it's mostly positive. I do like the fact you can mount it to the windshield with the 3M double-sided tape, so it doesn't go rolling around on you, or when the heat kicks in, it unsuction cups itself and falls down, or in a collision doing that same thing. So for that, I give it its props. The fact it sits right up against the windshield means you don't have to worry about the camera trying to focus on dirt and stuff that's on the windshield like you do with the other cameras I normally have mounted in the front of the Crown Vic and the front of the BMW. The user interface is easy to work with, but there are some downsides. The first being, whenever you save a video by pressing the lock button, yeah, it saves that video, but unless you remember exactly what time you press that, you're not going to be able to find it later easily, because it doesn't rename the file lock and then number whatever that movie is. So that is a problem if you're going to use it as a front-mounted dash camera. Now for my application, I'm not going to have to worry about that, because I'm going to use this as the rear-mounted camera in the BMW. So for my application, this camera is actually going to be pretty good. The picture quality is pretty good, on par with the other cameras. User interface is the same. And since it's going to be in the rear of the BMW, it's not like I can reach back and press lock to save a video anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I'll be able to just save the front video, call an audible saying I need to check the rear footage at this time, or on this file number, and since I always have these things, these memory cards synced and with the same file number, whether it's front or back, if I say video 15 and on the front camera says lock 15, I know to go to the back camera and check movie 15. So for those purposes, for me, camera's great. Got no issues with it. But again, that's for my application. If you were going to use this as a front camera, I would recommend using a smaller memory card, not a 64 gig. Because since it doesn't save it as what you need it to save as, you're going to want to start rewriting files sooner. So if you have to go back in time and figure out which one you saved and why, you don't have to sift through as many of them or wait a much longer period of time. Alright, we almost got this thing open, so let's see what kind of battery she's running. And this is the software/firmware version that my Crosstour is currently running. Okay, so after we take the first 4 screws off to get the cover open, there's 4 more screws. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the circuit board. So we're going to take those out, and then we'll expose the battery, and we should be able to see what she's running. Okay, and with those 4 screws, we can lift up and see here is the battery. So it is the same lithium polymer battery that all my other dash cams use. The 3.7 volt, 300 milliamp. So, again, these lithium polymer batteries last, roughly 2 years is what they've lasted in my dash cams. So every 2 years, once they start not keeping time anymore, or once you disconnect power, they immediately shut off and don't save that last file and then corrupt it. I make a habit of just buying some of these on Amazon or eBay and then going through and replacing them all. So that's the 3.7 volt, 300 milliamp. You could also go 200 milliamp, but then you would be losing, it's the same size, you're just losing a third of your milliamps, your storage capacity. You can, I believe even the 400 milliamps are also the same size, so you could upgrade to that, and then to replace it is just as easy as desoldering it and then soldering in the new cable. So that is my review, my in-depth, deep, detailed analysis of the Crosstour. And I would like to thank Chuck again for allowing me to participate in this collaboration project. Don't forget to go down below into the description and check out his video and the other boys to see what they say about the Crosstour. They may have a different take, a better or worse experience than myself. So, hope you enjoyed the video. Now you can make an informed decision whether this is or is not the right dash cam for you. And I'll catch you boys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace.